Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. My name is Katarina. It feels a little bit bittersweet for me to be filming this video. I'm a little bit sad, like I almost want to cry, but at the same time I have no regrets about doing this and I know it is the right thing for me to do. So I am filming my pan that palette finale. This year I have been panning two of these Huda Beauty 9 pan palettes and I have been talking about quitting this project midway through the year. However, what I don't think I have talked about is that this is going to be my last pan that palette video for now, and possibly this could be the last pan that palette video on my channel altogether. I just feel I have gotten to the point with my collection where doing a pan that palette or really other eyeshadow project pan, it just doesn't make sense. It's time to move for other things, and I do want to talk about that today. But before that, let's still give these palettes a little moment. Let's look at the progress that I was able to make during the first 6 months of the year, and after that we can talk why I don't feel like continuing a pan that palette anymore and what I think I will do instead. Okay, so let's first go through the progress that I have been able to make with the Huda Beauty Gold Obsessions eyeshadow palette, because this one was really my focused palette more during the first 3 months of the year. And by the way, I will say I don't have really good progress with these palettes during June. In June I was already kinda over of these. I did use them a couple of times, but yeah, I just was kinda over already. So the progress during the last month is not that great, but let's try to look the entire 6 months and what I have been able to achieve with these palettes. So let me show you a slideshow of the progress with this palette since the intro until today. And yes, because there's no really progress to be talked about since the last update, I'm just going to here show you a comparison between the intro and today. And I'm actually really happy about the progress I was able to make with this one. So as you can see, I was able to finish 2 eyeshadows, and with the 3 remaining eyeshadows that there are left, I was able to hit pan on all of them. And I will say the 4 empty pans in the intro were declutters. Somewhere last year I decided to declutter those eyeshadows that I really didn't like from both of these palettes. I was able to finish the 3rd shade from this palette, which was like a taupe with kind of like a gold shift to it, or gold shimmer to it. So it was a little bit warmer, a little bit brighter, actually a shade that I really enjoyed in winter. I do like taupes, but I don't like them if they're too cool and ashy or too dark and murky. So I need there to be a little bit of warmth or a little bit brightness, but it is a tone that I really do enjoy in winter, and this one I really did enjoy. And then I was able to finish the 7th shade, which was like a pinky champagne, a really frosty shade, and this kind of tones I typically do like in the really end of winter and then in the really beginning of spring. So yeah, I was able to finish those 2 shimmers, and then I did hit pan on the mattes. Originally I thought that I would like to finish the light peach matte. However, when I decided that I'm going to do this project only until midway through the year, I kind of realized that it is not doable, except if I used this one every day as an eyeshadow during the last couple of months in this project, and if I used this on blush, I didn't want to do that. Let's now take a look into the Toffee Brown Obsessions palette, which was my focus more during springtime, like I would say April and May. I was using this one a little bit more, so let's take a look into the progress. Okay, so again with this palette, not much progress since the last update. Originally I wanted to finish the second shade, so the kind of like bronzy coppery shade, but then in the last update I already knew, even though I had planned for saving it for the last month, I already knew that I am not in a mood for wearing that. Especially since the weather has not been the best here in Finland. Now in the beginning of summer it has been really rainy, cold, a lot of grey days, and something like this for me is typically something that I enjoy more if it is warmer weather, when I do have some tan and when we are getting closer to fall. So I just was not in a mood for wearing this. Today I'm wearing this though for the last time. I am wearing it like on the outer half of my lid, on the inner half I am wearing a highlighter. And I actually really do enjoy the look that I'm wearing today. I think it's absolutely stunning, but I will say I don't really care for the formula. I do think these Huda Beauty shimmers sometimes can be really difficult to work with. If they are light and something that I would just wear all over my lid, then I think they're easy because I can just like tap them on with my finger. That's what I typically like to do with light shimmers. But if they're a little bit deeper, so that I want to wear them a little bit on the outer part of the lid, then I feel they can be a little bit challenging. At least in these palettes. I have not had other eyeshadows from Huda, or except, yes, I did have the Mercury Retrograde palette back in the days, but I gave it to my sister because that one was just like too bright and colorful for me. I don't remember the formula in that, but yeah, these I feel they can be a little bit tricky. Anyways, that eyeshadow I originally wanted to finish but wasn't able to. Then I will say that the sixth shade is something that I decluttered during this project because I just knew that I'm not going to be wearing that. If this eyeshadow that is similar but lighter feels a little bit too dark for me and a little bit too challenging when I don't have any tan especially, there's no way that I would wear a similar shade but darker and more intense. So yeah, I decided to declutter that at some point during the project. However, I was able to finish 2 shades out of this palette. So the gold eyeshadow, the light gold, that's actually something that I've really enjoyed in spring, and I do really love this kind of eyeshadow colors. And today the highlighter that I am wearing on my lid is like a light golden toned highlighter. So yeah, you can see that I enjoy these colors a lot. And then I was able to finish the matte cream pretty early in the project. There wasn't too much left in the intro, and this one wasn't even my favorite matte cream because it was a little bit darker than my skin tone, so a little bit challenging, but I just think I used it to set my eyeshadow primer, or if I had those days that I didn't want to wear really any eyeshadow other than do a set. And then I was able to hit pan on the gold on the bottom row, so the little bit darker gold. This kind of golds I typically don't like to wear all over my lid because it can feel a little bit too dark, but I think I wore this on the outer half of my lid and then the lighter gold on the inner half of my lid, and that's the way I was able to hit pan. Maybe if I continued panning this palette until the end of the year, I would be able to finish both of the shimmers. I think it would be really doable, but it would just get so boring, I think. Not that I'm somebody who is super creative with eyeshadows, but I don't know, I don't necessarily just feel like wearing the same thing every single day. As I said, Huda Beauty shimmers, at least in these 9-pan palettes, are not my favorites. I'm actually a little bit curious about one of her palettes, the Icy Nudes one, because I have now realized that I might want to have some little bit cooler toned eyeshadows in my collection, and that one looks nice because it's so light. That one looks like it has a lot of beautiful lid shades for winter, but then I'm a little bit worried if the formula is going to be as tricky as it is with these, so I don't know. But anyways, I don't need to think about that palette right now. I'm anyways on a no buy, but that's something that I'm a little bit curious of. But yeah, let me know if you have tried that palette, or if you have tried the larger Huda Beauty palettes if they perform better. I think that is really everything that I have to say about these palettes. I enjoyed patting them. Today I took pictures for my makeup inventory that I will be filming probably in the end of the week or next week, but I already decided to take the pictures, so I removed these already from my makeup inventory. It's time for them to go, and if I'm completely honest, I'm not even going to miss them that much. There are some Pantat palettes that I do miss a little bit, like the very first Pantat palette that I did, the BH Cosmetics Carly Bible palette, the original one. I loved that palette and I loved panning it. It was probably my best Pantat palette ever, even though I didn't completely finish it. I think there was 3 shades left when I quit it, but it was such an enjoyable palette to pan. It showed progress quickly, but the shadows were really nice and I just liked the colors. Then there are some Pantat palettes that I have really struggled with when I have panned them, like the Modern Renaissance. Never again do I want to create an eyeshadow look with Modern Renaissance, even if I got the palette for free. Let's hope I don't get it for free, but I'm so over of that. And then there are some Pantat palettes that I have done that are kind of just like meh, like I don't really have that much feelings about those, and I think these go to that category. Anyways, as I said, I promised to share with you a little bit my thoughts, why I feel it's time for me to move on and not do a Pantat palette anymore. Maybe I should have written some notes. I do think this is a conversation that I need to be at some point having about project panning in general. But let's talk about eyeshadow. That's really the topic of today. For a while now I have felt that eyeshadow panning just doesn't really work anymore with the collection that I have, with the makeup style that I have. Most importantly, it doesn't make me happy anymore. If anything, it makes me stressed out and it kinda takes joy out of makeup. I have felt this way for a while, but I have just not been ready to quit, because I know there are people who are watching me just for my, or mainly for my, eyeshadow panning content. My Pantat palette videos have typically been some of those videos that have done the best on my channel, and I understand why. I enjoy watching eyeshadow panning content, it's fun, and I have gotten a lot from it. I have been able to learn my makeup preferences and I have been able to get my eyeshadow collection curated with the help of eyeshadow panning, although also I have had to do some decluttering, whether because I wanted to declutter the eyeshadows because I didn't like them, or then last year sadly I had to declutter my old eyeshadows because they were expired and caused me a reaction. But now my eyeshadow collection is so small and curated that doing a Pantat palette just doesn't make any sense, and there's really no other eyeshadow project also that I feel that would work, like pan those eyeshadows. Maybe it could work, but at the same time I don't even count my pan percentage anymore, or how many pans of eyeshadows I have. I don't know, I'm not even trying to count it right now, but I do have 4 eyeshadow palettes, different sizes, so doing a pan those eyeshadows with those would be maybe a little bit boring. Like watching the updates, it wouldn't be so exciting as it is if there is a YouTuber with larger eyeshadow collection. And anyways, I do feel even if I did that project, maybe it would help me to be a little bit more creative with my eyeshadow looks, but I don't know if I really want to be that creative with eyeshadow. Maybe if it is a certain season, I want to do a makeup look that kind of fits to that season, like I was talking about the Huda Beauty Eyes in Nude eyeshadow palette, that maybe I would be interested in getting that for winter, because I really don't have that much wintry eyeshadows. But what I'm not really into these days is to create really creative, unexpected looks. That's just not my thing, and that is okay. Another thing that I must talk about just quickly is that I have noticed that eyeshadow panning makes me create stronger, heavier eyeshadow looks what I would prefer to wear. My eyeshadow style just is kind of like simpler and basic these days, and I have noticed that when I do eyeshadow panning I tend to create looks that just feel off for me personally. So that's something I have felt for a while, and that's one reason also why it's maybe time for me to now allow myself to use the eyeshadows that I want to use and create the type of looks that I want to create. So what I'm going to be doing in future, I do still enjoy eyeshadow, although sometimes maybe you have thought that I don't really like eyeshadow because I have been talking about it kind of negatively. I think that has been a side effect of panning because I have felt this eyeshadow panning burnout for a while now, so then when I have been talking about my feelings it maybe has sounded negative, I don't know. But I do enjoy eyeshadow. I do think I look better when I have a nice eyeshadow look going on versus if I don't have any. I just think a little eye emphasis looks good on me. But at the same time I don't want to do active eyeshadow panning really. So what I think I want to do is in every 3 months just give you kind of like an update of where my eyeshadow collection is, if I have hit any new pans. Even if I don't actively try to hit pan, I can still take a look into the progress I have been able to make with my palettes during the past 3 months. And then I do have some cream and liquid eyeshadows, so maybe also I want to weight the progress with those. I probably will have kind of like a focus palette for each season, even if it's not intentional. Typically I do gravitate towards certain type of shades each season. So I think that's what I'm going to do. This is now, it's going to be my palette finale, but also kind of like a new beginning and an intro to just normal eyeshadow usage, I guess, without panning but without over consuming. So because of that, I actually today do want to share with you my eyeshadow collection, and here it is. Let's first look at the palettes and then talk about the liquids and creams. So I just want to show you where my palettes are currently so that then we can compare the progress in 3 months. But as I said, I'm not actively trying to hit pan on anything or finish anything. I just want to see what kind of organic progress I can make. So I do have this small Catrice eyeshadow palette. It is their pure nude eyeshadow palette, and I bought this one last fall when those eyeshadows that I talked about earlier that expired. I didn't have all of the basic mattes in my collection and I was just upset, so I bought this palette. And this is what the palette looks like right now. So as you can see, I have hit 4 pans. The matte eyeshadows from here I do use on my brows, so that's why there's so much progress. And then this shimmery white I have used as an inner corner highlight, and that's how I have been able to hit pan. But I will say, I don't like these tones on my eyes really, because they're so ashy. They're going to look kind of like bruisey on me. But they are great brow colors for me, because I do still have like a little bit cooler brown hair color and my brows are in that kind of color. The highlighters I do like in this palette. I just don't always bother with the highlighter, but yeah, as you can see, I have hit pan on the white shimmer, so I have gotten good use out of it. So that's kind of like a basic palette that I don't even create complete looks out of, but it is kind of like a support palette. So something that I use to create my brows and where I can pick highlighters from if I feel like it. But another kind of like basic palette for me is actually a new one. This is the Sosu All Matte Everything eyeshadow palette, and this I bought for myself for birthday because a lot of those basic mattes that I enjoy were lacking from my collection, so I wanted to get a palette that has those. And as you can see, this one has a nice selection of basic mattes and it is absolutely perfect for me. The tones are just so great. They're different tones of beige without going too ashy. In the Catrice palette that I just showed you, the tones are too ashy. But then these don't go too orange, because then in a palette that I'm going to show you later, the tones are really orange. So these are just great. They're beiges in different tones. Some of them look repetitive and similar, but I don't even care because these are exactly the kind of tones that I do use, and I think if I'm going to go for mattes, look the best on me because they're natural looking on my skin tone. Then I do have two other eyeshadow palettes that are kind of like complete palettes or not so much of basic palettes. So the ABH Soft Glam eyeshadow palette. This is now my oldest eyeshadow palette. It's going to be 2 years old in January, I think, so it's not too old yet, but totally something that I want to have a little bit more focus on right now. And anyways, I do think this is a great color story for fall. People often describe this palette being kind of like really easy and neutral, but I don't necessarily fully agree with that because I do still think that even though this palette is not as intense as Modern Renaissance with all of those pinks and oranges and all of that, this palette still is rather intense. I mean, the darker shades, they are really dark, and then this one has those really rusty tones. It's not something, for me at least, that is just super easy. And in this palette, some of those mattes like Orange Soda, Burnt Orange Sienna, they go a little bit more on the orange side. This one for me is a beautiful fall time palette. Specifically, it is a beautiful glam palette. If I want to create a full glam look, I'm going to get a beautiful, more warmer toned, or then more romantic toned if I feel like. It is a beautiful palette, but totally for me a little bit more of that darker season or more festive sort of look palette. Then I do have still one eyeshadow palette, so this one is the Juvia's Place Nubian Earth eyeshadow palette. This is something that I bought this January. It had been on my wishlist for a while, and then Juvia's Place was having really good sale. I think I paid only like €6.95 or something like that, and it had been on my wish list before because the colors are just so beautiful. So here you can see this palette leans a little bit light for Juvia's Place, I would say. Yes, the bottom row is a little bit darker shades, but the top row and the middle row are a little bit lighter. I actually do think that the Coffee Shop palette is kind of like similar in tone to this one. I was also really tempted to get that one, but then I realized that the tones are similar to these, but this is just more wearable for me because I don't like to go for too dark eyeshadow, and I just wanted the Coffee Shop palette because I love coffee. This one has such a nice selection of beautiful summery shimmers, is what I would describe these. So these are something that if I don't have any tan, maybe they would feel a little bit off, a little bit too dark, but if I have tan, I do think these would be beautiful, kind of like bronzy, golden sort of tones. So I think that this is something that I'm going to get good use out of now, since we are in summer. Although I will say in summer I rarely wear eyeshadow on my day-to-day basis. I definitely don't wear eyeshadow if we're having like really much heat and we're going outside because it's just going to be a melting mess. But I do think this is now, at least for the next couple of months, going to be my focus palette. I don't think there will be new pan or anything like that in 3 months or the next time I'm going to film an eyeshadow video, but maybe I will try to do with this palette kind of like, what is it called? No Pan Left Behind. I actually did a similar thing to that even before that project even became a thing. So in 2019 I did this series called Shop My Shadows, where I rotated through my entire eyeshadow collection in 1 year with the goal of using each eyeshadow at least once, and I did it. And it was probably my most fun eyeshadow year ever. Way more fun than any Pan That palette or other like official panning project I have done. I just enjoyed rotating through things so much, but back then I had way bigger eyeshadow collection. But anyways, I do think now in summer I maybe want to do kind of like a No Pan Left Behind with this palette, because this one is for me something that I would enjoy, especially in the summertime. Alright, then let's still quickly talk about my liquid and cream eyeshadows, and then there is one like single pressed eyeshadow. This one is from Catrice, something that I impulse bought, but this is actually really beautiful eyeshadow. It's like a rose goldy shade. Then I do have another like rose gold shade in a liquid eyeshadow form. This one is the Jason Wu Celestial Lust eyeshadow in the set Jane Doe. Then there's one more Catrice eyeshadow. This is actually a cream eyeshadow and the formula is absolutely stunning. I just have not worn it too much, but this is kind of like a bronzy shade. So that eyeshadow over here is the Catrice single, then that is the Jason Wu eyeshadow, and look at that. Then that is the Catrice cream eyeshadow, beautiful for every day. Then there are still 4 more eyeshadows, so 2 from Pupa. These are something that I bought from Tallinn last year. And these don't have names, but I do have one that is kind of like a white with a little bit of gold shimmer to it. And then I do have like a light gold. Then I do have 2 variations of peach from the Balm. So these are the Balm liquid eyeshadows. Okay, so here you can see, oh my gosh, these look absolutely beautiful. I have really gotten into liquid eyeshadow during the past year or so, but I don't want to have too many because they're the sort of product that expire quicker. But those 2 here are the ones from Pupa, so the kind of like white with a little bit of gold in it, and then the light gold. And then these are the Balm liquid eyeshadows. So here's Rose, which kind of looks like a peachy bronzy shade, and then there's Bellini, which I don't even know how to describe it. It's a little bit more corally, maybe. Not quite as warm as Rose, or is it Rosé? I'm not sure. But I do think that is really enough for today. This video probably ended up being quite long since I now decided to share my eyeshadow collection with you. I hope it wasn't too much of a rant and too negative, although I feel this is now a discussion that I need to have with you and with myself, that even though I have enjoyed eyeshadow panning so much and panning in general, there just comes the time and the point when it's just not serving the same purpose anymore, and I feel I have gotten there, especially with eyeshadows already. And I know it can be a little bit disappointing to some of my subscribers, but I need to do what is the right thing for me, and I just feel my eyeshadow collection, as you saw, it's small, it's curated. I really enjoy everything that I have. There's just no point for me to be hyper focused on one thing anymore, while I can enjoy it all and I can seasonally use what I feel like. So I feel what is the right thing for me to do is to quit eyeshadow panning for now. Who knows, maybe one day I will change my mind, but at least now I think it's time to say goodbye for Pantat palette. But I will be continuing other things. My mindful beauty consumer journey will continue, and I do want to create eyeshadow looks. I do still want to talk about eyeshadows. It's just not going to be active panning. But yeah, it's getting rambly now. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope to see you in my next one. Bye bye.